Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Let me tell y'all something. All this back and forth about Showtime, going out of business, Crawford and Spence, the weight and all that. Keep this video very short. Understand this, right? This whole thing with Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford and the rematch, okay, now we got a little more fidelity. The fact that Showtime's going out of business, that affects, I think they'll definitely when that rematch is going to take place. The real question is if it's going to even take place at all, okay? So we know there's a contract, but what do you do if there's nowhere, no network, no PBC? I mean, we know that they have some things in work and trying to find somewhere where they could take their stable of fighters, but long story short, there's a whole lot of conversation there, but we'll talk about that in another video. But let me tell you something. What people keep talking about this rematch, right, with Crawford and Spence, and feeling that having to fight at 154 pounds is the main reason they want to have the fight there, so Spence will be comfortable and he doesn't have to cut so much weight to get to 147, basically be a zombie in the ring. And they feel at 154 he'll be more healthy. And many people believe that at 154, Errol Spence beats Terrence Crawford. Now, I'm going to tell you that I don't believe that to be the case. I just think Crawford, like I've said in other videos, Spence is elite, Crawford's more elite, all right? Simple. But what I'll tell you, right, something y'all may not know, I think the weight cut has a little bit to do with them wanting to fight at 154. I think it has a lot to do with it. But I think the fact that at 154, fighters wear 10-ounce gloves and not 8-ounce gloves. And I think Espinoza and Al Heyman and everyone involved with Errol Spence, because let's face it, ain't nobody Team Crawford over there at Showtime and PBC, all right? Those are just the facts. But I think everybody who's over there is trying to take care of Errol Spence. So now, for those of you who didn't know that, well, there you go. So he gets to, be at a weight to where he's the most comfortable, right? Because this is what it's about. They're trying to set up Errol Spence to be the most comfortable he can be and have the best chance of winning this rematch. Because I personally think they want him to fight Canelo, but I mean, some people think I'm crazy for saying that, but that's what I think. So now that you look at it, for those who are saying, the glove size doesn't matter, oh, yes, it does. Especially when you got your butt beat the way he did by Terrence Crawford. That additional 2 ounces can make a difference, a big difference. You see, Crawford possesses the one-hitter, quitter, knockout power. But, he just got to line things up just right to get that shot off. Errol Spence just obviously from his performance against Crawford showed us all that he's not the kind of guy who's just going to get knocked out cold from one shot. But in this next fight, because of the damage he took from that first fight with Crawford, who knows what's happened to his punch resistance. So you think they really want to run the risk of him going back into a fight with Crawford wearing 8-ounce gloves? Okay, we get the weight. We get it, all right? We ain't going to talk about the weight no more. But you think they want him back in there with somebody hitting him with 8-ounce gloves, knowing that his punch resistance has been affected? Let me tell you something. This has been going on for years in boxing and in combat sports, and even in, football, contact sports. Combat sports and just contact sports. When guys start getting banged around, their punch resistance isn't the same. Their ability to take a shot, like in football, is not the same. You know what I'm saying? It's just something that happens to the body. So when you look at this rematch, they're focusing so much on the weight to have everybody's minds tied up like, oh, yeah, Errol Spence was dehydrated. Errol Spence hadn't eaten for 3 days. He didn't drink anything. The man was on chips of ice and hot baths and sauna suits and spitting all over the place. That's the narrative that they're going to run. But let me tell you this. I do think the weight is part of it, but I believe they don't want him getting hit with them 10-ounce gloves no more. Because y'all understand, they got the puncher's gloves out there. I think it's the Reyes. Spence and Crawford is my understanding. Take it with a grain of salt now. I just don't want nobody playing Bob Marley and trying to shoot the sheriff and shit. All I'm saying is my understanding, Spence and Crawford both wanted to wear the puncher's gloves because obviously they both wanted to try to knock each other out. So it didn't work out so well for Spence. It worked out very well for Crawford. But going into this rematch, Espinoza and the Secret Society and Al Heyman and the key decision makers behind the scenes who are over there, Team Spence, they're like, nah. The rematch, we've got to do it. We understand, but hold on a second. How can we posture Errol Spence for the best chance of success or the best chance of let's minimize the damage. Let's mitigate. Let's do damage control now. We know that there's always a chance of Errol Spence winning the fight because the best fighter doesn't win. It's the fighter who boxes the best on that night. And maybe in a rematch, Errol Spence just happens to put on this out of this world performance, right? But that's probably not going to happen. But it could. But one thing we know there's a high probability of happening is him getting in there and getting damage again. So how can we do a little damage control to make sure we know our guy probably is going to get his ass kicked, but let's make sure that at least he doesn't get destroyed this time. One, had that fight at 154. That way he's not so lethargic. He has his feet underneath him. He's moving around the ring, floating like a butterfly, stinging like a bee. Basically going full Chikadze and Boots Ennis. Going full Zorilla against Regis Prograis. Going full KSI against Tommy Fury, where it's a whole lot of, clinching, holding, or running around the ring. You understand? Well, the way we do that is we make sure that at 154, he also has to wear those 10-ounce gloves. So we get a win-win. We may get a loss, but at least it's a win-win because our guy doesn't get destroyed and he lives to fight another day. We can make more money. And that's really how I see it, man. So the key takeaways, in my opinion, is understanding that there's so much more to this fight being pushed back. We understand the logistical issues with everything going on with Showtime getting out of boxing, PBC trying to find a new home. But also we understand the weight issue and them trying to, and I truly feel they're trying to strong arm Crawford into to the fight at 154. And it's kind of like, hey, either you take this fight here and do us a favor because we did you a favor, which Crawford owes them nothing, but it's just the honorable thing to do, in my opinion, is for Crawford to have the fight at 154. But when you start peeling the layers back, there's so much more to it than them like, hey, we did you a solid, do us one. Nah, they want to make sure, and I don't even think Crawford and his team really understand all that. I don't think they're thinking about it like that. But we'll see if the more they start interviewing Bo Mack and Crawford's coaches, they may talk about that. If I'm talking about it, I'm sure they gotta be. Someone over there at some point in time is gonna say, well, shit, they pushing this fight at 154 because they know we gotta wear 10-ounce gloves, and it makes a difference. It does make a difference. But anyway, that being said, y'all keep cool. Shout out to the veterans, all 7 continents. Leave your comments below. Let me know what you think. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. But I'm just telling you, man, that's a big difference, 10-ounce versus 8-ounce. Even though I think Errol loses, but it's just, you got the weight, you got the gloves, and I got to think what other things are attached with fighting at 154 that would be an advantage for Errol Spence to give him the best chance of winning. So far, we've named 2. The third thing, I don't know, but I'm sure there's several other things that are going to come with him fighting at 154. But we just got to wait and see. That being said, y'all keep cool. I'm in the breeze.